Stars of Akarios. This is your review for 2. Good day, my name is Joe Gerba. Today I'll be going over Stars of Akarios and how it plays with 2 players. Now, Stars of Akarios is a 1 to 4 player campaign game. And I say campaign because this really can't be played in one-off scenarios. So you'll be using this campaign book to guide you through some story. There's kind of 3 parts to this game. There's space exploration, there's ground and planet exploration, and then there's the actual fighting which will happen on this board. So let's see a little bit more how to play. Now, I'm not going to go into too much how to play this game, but essentially you're guiding the Sparrow, which is this big capital ship around the galaxy, and you get to choose your own character and choose your own ship to go along with that, and you'll be going through this campaign story, earning credits, upgrading your characters, fighting encounters, and doing just any of those 3 events that I explained otherwise. There's a lot going on in this game. It is very thematic as you go about. When you move across these galaxies with the Sparrow, it's almost 7th Continent-esque, where you'll be moving, revealing a new card, seeing events and seeing different scenarios you can do. When you explore a planet, it's very 7th Continent-esque as well, but you're moving your person, or in our case 2 people, around this map, exploring these little nooks and crannies on the planet, and then you're actually doing the space combat. Now, I'm going to focus probably on the space combat the most, because that's where, kind of the meat and potatoes of this game kind of are, where you have your own player mat, you have your own upgrades, and essentially you're moving across the map, rolling your dice, and here's kind of your 4 action dice you can use for the round. You can upgrade your ship by just getting new weapons, new engines, new tech kind of parts, and when you use it, you may assign a dice and move it down. You kind of have supply. So there's a lot going on in this combat game. You have shields and hull points, and it's just a lot of tactically moving around and kind of fun combat. Each of these is going to be a different scenario. When you explore a certain planet, when you do a certain thing to advance the story, you're going to be setting up the scenario kind of Gloomhaven-esque, and we'll get into that quite a bit later. Read a little bit blurb on the story and read the success or failure. And then you'll be able to either upgrade your ship, get some credits, advance the quest, and there's just a lot kind of going on with this game. Like I said, you got the ship exploration, the planetary exploration, then you have the individual, we're going to go to the ground and really explore and see what this planet has to offer, and then there's the ship. And the ship is very, maneuverable, very tactical when you get into the ship battles. So there's a lot going on with this game, and stick around a little bit more and I'll try to go through what I actually thought about the game. So first, let's talk about the components. There's a lot of components in this game. I'm going to compare this to Gloomhaven. There's probably an equal amount of components. There's a lot of cards. Each time there's a scenario setup, you have to get one of these enemy mats, place the enemy on there, and I really do like these mats. They give you, sides for health bars instead of just putting chips on the board. You kind of move these cubes down. There's ships. I like standees. I don't care for everything. Doesn't have to be miniatures, but I like how the ships have miniatures, and the enemies are kind of standees. They give you these nice inlay boards that you can put your upgrades in. When you move stuff down, it kind of feels nice, kind of feels like you're using things. The dice are neat. They give you just a ton of components when you explore. They did not lack on the actual components in this game. So let's talk about the rules and references. The rules are pretty thick, Gloomhaven-esque, and I know some people may get tired of me saying, but it really does kind of have that Gloomhaven feel where there's that many rules. And then the references, all the references are pretty good. There's a couple misprints in the first printing that we did have to go and look some things up. The scenario rules are fairly straightforward. Some of the scenarios, I will admit, are kind of clunky, but overall fairly well designed. The rules are well written. I was able to, comprehend without a few too many head scratchers, but rules and references pretty straightforward. A lot of iconography on these cards, and once you play several scenarios, you kind of get the hang of what a lot of these symbols mean. So let's talk about setup. If you compare this to Gloomhaven, I'd say this would be a little bit easier to set up. However, it takes up so much table space that, man, if you don't leave this out, you may never get it back to the table. It is easier to get it back to the table. They have these nice, trays for each one of the characters you may choose. There's a lot of easy ways to save, but man, a game of this size is just tough to have a one session and then put back in the box. So setup in this game is not going to be quick and easy. It'd be better if you can just leave this out for a while. And then table size, is it takes up all 6 foot by 3 foot of our gaming table. But we've had this out for, I don't know, about 3 weeks now. And it's a table hog, and we have been able to easily, sit there and then set up a new scenario. But we also have, the ability to have this out on the table. But it is a table hog. So let's talk about the gameplay a little bit. While you're in space, there's a lot of maneuverability. Your ship can only move certain ways. It's kind of like that naval combat kind of style that I really like. Can I hit somebody from the back, or do I have my flanks kind of exposed? Now, in this game, if you're shot from the back, the enemies get advantage against you. If you shoot enemies from the back, you'll get advantage. Now, I say advantage because that's kind of like how it is with Gloomhaven. You're going to have this deck of cards that you'll be able to upgrade throughout the campaign that are just going to be your modifier cards. So if you've played Gloomhaven, this is really going to strike a chord with that kind of style. When you do an ability, you'll be able to see how many enemies you can hit, how far, and then you'll be drawing these cards to kind of modify that damage. So a lot of similarities there. And then the space combat is pretty fun and engaging. The enemies move in certain ways. However, I'm going to discuss this now. Man, it's a lot to keep track of. Our table is just cluttered. Each scenario, is just kind of a pain to set up. You can get it to the table, it's fine. But once you're in the scenario, it's a lot of fun being able to manage your supplies that you're using. You can only use, some of your cooler engine powers or weapon powers so many times throughout the scenario. So you got to really think when you're going to use those. And I really like that. I like kind of the shield mechanic, how your shield recharges a little bit, as you go, but your actual hull points kind of stay the same. So you really want to make sure you're only taking damage with your shields. The combat's just very fun. And it's a lot of naval kind of combat fun. Now let's go into some of the other aspects of the game, which is kind of the story, the more narrative effects of, the space exploration. You are on this ship called the Sparrow, and you're, kind of the crew. You're the squadron that kind of defends the Sparrow and defends certain things. I don't want to go into the story too much. But moving around this, like I said, 7th continent-esque. And then when you can explore the planet, you really get into the big story points where everything you explore is going to have a story written about it. And it's kind of neat. I wouldn't put it as deep as, 7th continent kind of is, but there's a lot of story in this book. This book is pretty thick, and the story itself is decent. I wouldn't say it's the most innovative story that we've played, but it's a pretty good story. So let's talk about the difficulty. Difficulty is not too hard in this game. Movement can be tough for some people who aren't, movement inclined, such as maybe my wife, who really has to think, how can I shoot this ship this turn? And it can take some getting used to, especially if you're not used to the kind of the naval combat, slower turning kind of style. The That does make it a little bit more difficult, but like I said, there are other parts in the story. And then we go into replayability a little bit, where I don't know if I would necessarily replay this game. We have made it through Act 1, and it's been kind of a lot. There's a lot that you get in this box, but it needs a time commitment too. So that'll bring you into the next point of, if you don't think you have time for a game that can be played multiple times a day for many weeks straight, this game may not be for you. There's a lot in this box, and you can't just play one scenario and then put it up for months and think you'll just be able to catch up with the story. This is a really tough game, but you do get a lot in this box. So if you're looking for the super large campaign, maybe this is for you. So is this game good for 2? And I'm going to give a lot of thoughts and just take them as you will. I do really like this game for 2. It's got the upgrading aspect. It's got some achievements. You have some good choice in the story. I like this game for 2. However, I don't think this game will be for me in the long run. It is a good game, just maybe not for me. I think it plays well with 2. I think the scenarios are designed pretty well with 2. You can have a lot of decisions between the 2. It's a good all-around game, but for me, this is just kind of maybe too big. The campaign itself just felt like a grind, even near the end of Act 1, and there's 3 acts to this. So we played the prelude and completed Act 1, and we've had a really good time, but it's kind of run its course. It kind of feels like that, man, where's the end in sight? We've done this and that, and we've upgraded our ship quite a bit. What more is there to see? Once you've explored, your second galaxy, and once you've explored your second or third planet, and you've played multiple space battles, it's like, what more is there? So that it kind of wears on you. Now, if you're a campaign gamer and you just love grinding those campaigns for a couple extra credits every time and slowly, upgrading, and you want that in a board game, this is great. Now, I'm also going to compare it to Gloomhaven, because you can tell by this game the modifier decks, the enemies having a standard or an elite side, them changing the bases from standard or elite depending on the color, the numbers on the ships as you move through. If you like Gloomhaven, and if you completed Gloomhaven, then maybe this game is for you if you can see yourself through. If you thought Gloomhaven was too long, I would stay away from this. For me, my buddies and I at Dads and Dice we're playing through Jaws of the Lion, Gloomhaven on Tabletop Simulator, and we're having a good time. It's just enough story, and the setup is easy enough for us to get that campaign, but we do have an end in sight. We know that the Jaws of the Lion is only, so many scenarios, where this just feels like there's a lot in here. The story is just too big for me. So if you think the original Gloomhaven box is too much, then this is probably going to be too much game in a box. This isn't one you're just going to play in one sitting. Other things on Gloomhaven, the modifier decks, when you draw these, we've kind of seen this mechanic before. I wouldn't say anything in this game is really innovative. We've kind of seen the Seventh Continent kind of type before, where you're exploring in certain numbers and then you read the passage. I do like a lot of things about this game, but for me, it's just kind of too big for what it is, and that's just for me. If you like a game that you can play 50, 60 scenarios of, this is the game for you. But for me, I would rather, play a game over a weekend, multiple times, or a campaign that has a set of, 15 scenarios, even like a pandemic legacy. Something like that can, where what you're getting out of the box. Instead of this is where this is a commitment. And I know, may get a lot of flack, but this is a large game. They give you a lot of stuff. It's a great game, but there is a lot of preparation, mental space, and time commitment for this game. So that's kind of my overview. I like how a lot of things work. I like the combat mechanics. I like being able to upgrade your character. I like the space exploration. The story's good. They give you a lot of options. It's very thematic. It's very immersive. It's a lot of game. It's a lot of mental fortitude and setup. I do like this game for 2. I don't quite think it's for me as far as finishing it, but it's a good game for 2. So hope you guys enjoyed the review, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment. There's a lot of things I probably left out, trying to keep this video a little bit shorter, but I probably spent about 15 minutes by now just explaining some of this stuff. So really like the game, but not quite for me because it's a little bit too large. So hope you enjoyed the review, and until next time.